welcome to Sidewinder Jiu-Jitsu Scattershooting. Thanks for checking us out. This is Professor Clem. Just gonna bring you guys another quick video series today. Hope you're enjoying the channel. I wanted to ask that everybody that checks these video series out, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. There will be a lot more coming from Sidewinder Jiu-Jitsu Academy. Taking a kind of a novel approach on vlogging and using the YouTube channel to get our techniques out there and get some of the things that are going on at Sidewinder Jiu-Jitsu out there. So scatter shooting is just all things jiu-jitsu, not necessarily just techniques. We will cover technique, we'll cover in-depth breakdown like you can see in some of our past videos that we've got up. We'll also discuss some things that are going on the scene, real life interviews, just a bunch of different things to come here on our channel. So if you like it, subscribe. Specifically if you enjoy the video breakdown. Guys, I've taken a lot of time to try to break this down. I know as a black belt, I can tell you that one of the hardest things to get are some of the little nuances of technique within jiu-jitsu, and that's kind of what we're focusing on. I'm not going to be putting a bunch of videos out there of techniques that even at white belt everybody has seen. We're going to cover some nuanced features of the techniques and try to break it down a little bit further and kind of give you some different perspectives and some different things to work on. I like to consider myself a very different type of practitioner. I've never really went with the mainstream when it comes to techniques. I like the different movements. Anything that a person would look at jiu-jitsu and say, yeah, that was really a beautiful technique. Those are the types of things that interest me. So that's the type of game that I've developed over the years. And I didn't tend to generally like to see the more beautiful movements, the better lines of a jiu-jitsu practitioner. And I hate to say this because it's going to sound, it's going to be laughable to some of the more stone-faced jiu-jitsu players out there, but if you can imagine crossing ballet with jiu-jitsu, you hear people talk about lines, you hear people talk about that particular person had good lines, their movement was truly beautiful. Well, you look at some of those, and there's been a very limited number of those in the past few years. You start talking about athletes like Fernando Tedder. You start talking about athletes such as that had explosive movements, but they had just absolutely gorgeous lines. That's kind of what we're talking about here, okay? Their jiu-jitsu is truly beautiful, as opposed to its counterpart. You can compare that to kind of like a battle tank trudging across the battlefield. Not necessarily the most pretty thing out there, but it's really, really effective, okay? So I like to focus on the former over the latter. Depending on how you, what kind of practitioner you are, you may like to see different things, okay? So, today, I didn't mean to offshoot there, but today, the one thing we're going to cover today is we're going to go over one of the finer features of what we call the upsweep. There's many names for this particular type of technique, but by and large, I think generally anybody will understand what we're talking about if we're talking about the sit-up sweep or the upsweep. Guys, this is one of the premier techniques that you're going to learn. I mean, generally in every jiu-jitsu school, probably the first week or two, you're going to pick this up. It is a closed guard movement. Many of you guys will say that, you know, actually I think now you would probably say we're seeing a resurgence of the closed guard on the world scene. It is very cyclical. For a long time we had went away from a lot of the closed guard techniques. Now we're back, or a lot of people are kind of moving back to it. So the resurgence of sweeps such as the sit-up sweep are kind of being seen on the world level and at the local level. All right. The base thing about the sit-up sweep is that it is a very effective, it's a hyper-effective technique, but it does rely on it relies on two things to become effective. Number one, the person has to open their guard. That is the biggest weakness of the sit-up sweep. Okay, they have to open their guard, place their feet flat on the deck. Has to happen. Point number two is there has to be some sort of post. Can't just be done by looping over the arm or wrapping the arm, as you'll hear me refer to in the video. There has to be an active post behind the person for them to be able to sit up, make that cross wrap around the arm, and then drive. There has to be hip drive. So Having said all that, this is not the safest or most secure sweep. So the question is, why is it so effective? Why is this one of the more effective sweeps that you'll see? You'll see it hit at the world level. You still see it hit at black belt level. There's a lot of places where you'll see this sweep still used. I think the general answer is because of its timing into the entry, as far as an entry into the book of jiu-jitsu. It is one of the first sweeps that you'll ever see mentioned. So it becomes a sort of a staple in the minds of most practitioners. If I introduced a brand new practitioner to De La Riva guard and gave them any one of the De La Riva sweeps, you would probably see the same type of thing. We as practitioners are introduced into the closed guard from day one. So being introduced to the closed guard from day one, this becomes one of the first sweeps that you'll ever see. So today, we're going to cover that. The biggest issue here is misapplication or misdirection of weight on the part of the defender. They get themselves overextended, they get themselves out of balance, and ultimately, they wind up getting swept. So the question is why? Ideally, those that are guard players understand one very important thing, and that is that the guard is extremely dynamic. It's dynamic because you have the ability to completely lock a person down, controlling their entire body movement, but you also have the ability to redirect or move their body. Makes the guard extremely potent, the closed guard, namely. So in covering this, we're gonna look at a couple things here, just like we have in the prior videos. One of the first things that we're going to look at here is points of contact. Now, points of contact are very important here. On the part of the defender, they seek to wrap the arm and they seek to obtain a post behind them. So if we can eliminate the post hand, whatever hand they're planning on setting up to, that makes the sweep pretty much ineffective. Now the issue is we're gonna zoom right past that, because we all know, even as beginner practitioners, you always wind up getting your hand stuck down on the mat when you're doing the grip fighting. That's pretty much given. So once a person obtains that grip and they get themselves to a post, that becomes the issue. So most of the time we will see the grip becomes either a Kimura type grip, or they'll do an over wrap. They'll do a wrap over of the hands, and they'll post on the backside arm. Once they post on the backside arm, one of the most common mistakes that you see in this sweep, and how it's still effective, is just amazing to me, that they will try to hit the sweep from on their forearm. Basically, the defender has their weight completely committed over the top of the guard player, and they still manage to hit this sweep. So what we're doing here is we have to understand that there is not that the traditional wrap the arms around the waist, bury the head down, drive into the guard player is not going to be the most effective approach. In fact, I see far more people get submitted, both in training and competition, for dropping their head down and trying to barrel through this particular technique. A far more effective method is going to be to reach around the backside, grab the collar with the free hand. We're going to grab the collar. We're going to keep our attack elbow, the elbow that's getting attacked, we're going to keep that at either at a 45-degree angle or lower in our favor. Meaning we're not going to let the elbow breach 90 degrees. Not going to let it roll forward, because you wind up getting caught in Kimura. You wind up having a bunch of different things that you have to deal with at that point. So we grab the back of the collar, and in grabbing the back of the collar, we're going to start to somewhat knee scoot or lurch forward in a circular pattern toward our attacked arm, the arm that's getting attacked. So instead of trying to rip your arm back and bring it back to you, you're going to take yourself to that. But keeping that collar eliminates the player's ability to get rotational. What I mean by rotational is to elevate the hips and go up and over the torso to sweep you. The reason this is effective is because you have the collar being pulled down from behind, which is driving them back to the mat. And if they're on their forearm, they only had 50% drive to complete it anyway, as opposed to being on the hand where they're supposed to be, to generate the height and the leverage to get it over. So if they're on their forearm, all we have to do is grab the collar, we're pulling down on the collar, and we're pulling down on the collar, we're also pinning our elbow to their lower back. When we do that, that blocks the hip's ability to drive upward and get rotational and get above our belly button to drive us over. And essentially, the pivot point becomes when the guard player's hip gets above, I guess, mid-belly line on the defender. Once their hips come up that high, it's almost impossible to stop it because you have so much momentum attacking the upper, I guess I'd say, 1/4 of your body, and you get toppled. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to keep this allows us to keep our head up. We grab the collar, we pinch the elbow, and when we pinch the elbow, we are going to start scooting forward on our knees to get our elbow back to square. Okay, and it's just a good way to drive them back. Our head is safe. There is no choke threat. There's very little here for the guard player to work with. So essentially what I'm begging we try to do is we go from the standard response, which is wrapping our hands around their waist, driving them forward with an X grip in the back and the small of the back, to going into a collar secured grip, pulling down, and just walking forward on our knees until we right the ship, and put them back flat on their back. That's essentially what we're trying to do right here. Now, in the second part of this video, you're going to see kind of a novel approach to the big weakness that I see in this sweep, which is the necessity for the guard player to get his feet to the ground, thereby opening his guard. So we get to that position where we've got good collar control. We're going to transition over to a hand grip on the sleeve, palm down grip. That controls that arm. Then once the guard player breaks his guard open to insist on the sweep, we're going to get to that knee grip, lock our elbows out, and then it's a step back. It's not a step over, it's a step back. You'll notice that the extended leg on that far side, when we extend the leg back, we now have a post that's going to keep him, even with his guard up. You got to understand there's some danger there with his guard open, is because he can drive off that foot, and he's probably going to. He's probably going to beat you to the drive. But extending the foot back behind you gives you a post to keep you from getting driven over. So now you've got that force on force that we've created, and you'll hear me numerous times reply to, or actually say, we're going to create a force on force situation. And in my experience, creating a force on force situation in a technique that really requires leverage to hit, you reduce the effectiveness of that particular technique. So we go force on force, we kick the leg back. Now imagine this, he's trying to drive upwards with his hips. You have a good long post back behind you, being your play side leg. You're now going to step straight forward and over that knee, and with that momentum, you're going to long step to the backside. Okay, and in long stepping to the backside, we're able to completely clear the guard and get over because we have locked out that knee. So, moving forward, I'm gonna probably, actually on this video, there will be, I'm assuming about 5 to 6 minutes worth of instructional that came from the class. So I wanted to get in here and I wanted to break this down for you guys, let you actually hear me discuss some of the finer points of it, break it down really, really well for you. And I hope you enjoy the technique. We're gonna continue to do this as we move forward as an organization, and I move forward as a YouTube coach. We'll get some better equipment in here so you can actually hear me. That should be the very next thing. But I want to implore to you guys, if you're watching this video right now, go ahead and support the channel. You know, I'm a little bit of history here. I'm a 2nd degree black belt, Generation 2 black belt from DFW Metroplex under Professors Alan Shabaro and JD Shelley. Been doing jiu-jitsu for nearly 20 years. So I have coached a lot. Spent most of my time coaching and preparing fighters to enter jiu-jitsu competitions, and just coaching all my students. So we're going to continue to move forward with this channel. We're going to continue to put out some great content, and that's the entire topic here. So if I provide you guys with some listening material for your morning coffee, please support the channel. Give it a thumbs up. Give us a subscription. In the months to come, you know, I will refer you over to the BJJ Black Belt Secrets episodes. Those will become what I consider the elite techniques and some of my finer points of not just submissions but just multiple techniques. May seem similar to what we're doing right here in snake pit scatter shooting, but that's not at all the case. This is more of a comprehensive breakdown and a tutorial for just various techniques. Not going to come from every single class that we have, but just for those of you who do not have the ability to get into your schools and train on a regular basis, I'm going to kind of quench the desire and quench the thirst here with this channel. So if this provides you a few additional elements to the game and you're not quite able to train as often as you'd like, go ahead and check us out. I'm going to continue to put these videos out for you guys. All right, so I hope you enjoyed it, and check back with us. And here is the actual instructional from the class that particular night. Have a good day, and God bless.
Of the upsweep and what causes us typically to get leveraged over. So what happened in Jesse's match? What happened in Jesse's match was we were fighting here. We committed our hands to the inside. Okay. Once we committed our hands to the inside, we kind of got laid over to a side. Kind of moved our weight over to the side. Once the hand came off, the opponent came up to his forearm, not to his post like he's supposed to. Came over to the arm, locked, got right here, bumped one time. Jesse recovered, kind of gets to right here, pushes him back, and then sits his weight up, and he ends up going on over, and that's how you wind up in the situation that you're in. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to cover posturing, defensive posture in that position, in that upsweep. Okay, we always say we want to maintain good posture. What is good posture? We don't really discuss good posture. Good posture is a variable term. Okay, good posture if he's going away is here. Okay, fighting that backwards movement. Good posture if he's coming up is more so here. Okay, so something to keep in mind. When the head is off of the mat, we've talked about this, that his line is broken. Okay, with his line being broken, he does not have anywhere near the power that he normally would have. Now, what happened is the upsweep becomes available when we fail to control an arm. So just like in the guard, he wants to control a collar and a sleeve. When we're in the guard, we want to control a collar and a sleeve. Ideally, I want to control whatever sleeve he identifies as the backside sleeve. So if he reaches for my collar, and then even if he briefly lets it go, you got to be able to see this. This is kind of like figuring out, a guy's punch combination if you're a boxer. So he reaches here, and then all of a sudden we break it, which you're fantastic with breaking drills. Fan-flippin-tastic. Okay? Broke grip after grip after grip after grip. He came here, sold this one. All right? You go here, bust the grip. He grabs the collar, or grabs the sleeve. Okay? And at that point, your hand goes to the mat. All right? He comes up here, and that's when you wind up grabbing for the belt, trying to get his back on the mat. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically identify the post hand, all right, or force him to have no sweep in this position, all right. So by putting a leg up, you give him a hook underneath and a sweep over the top. By letting him have an elbow back, you give him the ability to sit up. So if we truly want to limit his ability to come up, to off-balance us, we have to at least just control one arm, okay? Because think about it, for that upsweep, he has to have a post and he has to have a wrap hand. So if I control one of these, we're good to go, all right? So grabbing the sleeve, elbow coming close, all right? Dropping the forearm over the thigh, controlling this upper body. If he ever starts to lift his hips up, you simply flare the elbow out, okay? If at some point he gets you to here, which is bound to happen, it always happens, and they start with the wrap and coming up, What we're going to do is we're going to come over the back side of the collar. We're going to pull down the collar and we're going to drive. Okay? We're going to drive and then we're coming right back. Instead of when they come up, grabbing down here, which is exactly where you grab, around the waist. When we grab the waist, we only really have one option, and that's just being stuck to the guy. We're basically along for the ride. So once we go for the ride, we grab here, I'm basically along for the ride as I go on over. There's nothing there to stop him from taking me over. Once the body commits to a hand, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the gi. Grabbing the back of the gi, pulling down. Now, if he starts to get rotational and go around my arm, now I'm stuck to him up top, not down low. He can't rotate around the arm. He can use everything he's got to go around the arm and hit the sweep. Sweep. But watch. Okay. So the collar, and it's not very well known, just about everybody, when they go around, I see this. Here, they'll X grip, and they'll drive. Well, then what happens is as he goes back to his back, my head is down. And this is where I'll wind up. Not good. Okay? At what point in time has anybody ever told you, let your head down in the guard? Never, right? So we're here, hands end up to the mat. He goes rotational around my arm. I really only have one choice, okay? And it's sure not around the belt. I'm gonna come high on the back of the collar, okay? High on the collar, elbow goes straight down to the back. All I'm going to do now, this hand, I'm gonna reach, I'm gonna lurch forward. Keeping my hand bent this way, don't let it go like this. My hand has to stay, my fingers have to stay pointed above his head. If I let my thumb go out, he's gonna go here. Not good, okay? So when we come back, all I have to do once he locks down that grip, hands are out, he comes over. Elbow stays up. I stay at that 45, but the elbow cannot go this way. It has to stay back. It has to stay like this. So I grab the collar, I lock. Now I'm going to go into that elbow and circle. Okay? Go into my elbow. Elbow head's going to come high up on the arm, so that now I can pull my arm back. Not straight. He goes around the arm, gets rotational. I grab the collar here. I'm going to go around that elbow until my head is high enough that I've now busted through that grip, and I'm going to write myself a number. It's not a straightforward movement. It's this. It's kind of a scoop around to a circle. Okay? All right, here we go. 1, 2, 6 up. Boom. Over the top. Okay? I grab. I drive forward. Sensitive for the opening of the guard, which is a requisite. Once the guard opens, I grab, handful of sleeve. Lock. Don't be here. Lock it. I'm up to my back foot. Okay, now the interesting point about the movement is there's a lot of switching around going on, but I go straight back. I'm not going to go over because my foot is acting as a post. Okay, so I post, step up and around, take the back. Okay. Kick around is just straight back. He sits up, gets over the top, I grab, lunge forward, switch my grip. Lock. Come on around. Okay? Wait for the opening of the guard. You can't hit enough guard. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.